Welcome back to Tactical and Practical. I'm super excited for today's conversation because we're having a guy on the pod that I DM when I'm having issues with Meta, and he's been super helpful. So I thought y'all should hear from him as well. You've probably seen him on Twitter talking all things Meta, but especially CPMr. So we're gonna dig into it. This episode is with Phil Kiel. What's up, Phil? How are you, dude?
Hey, Nate. I'm good, thanks. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, of course. How is life across the pond?
Yeah, good. Good. I mean, it's perfect time in Britain at the minute. The weather's starting to get better. Us Brits like to talk about the weather. We don't really get that much sun.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if you come over here, everyone's in a good mood because we're getting a bit of sunshine. So
Love that. Well, dude, I wanted to start with giving like what my intro to CPMR was a couple of years ago, and then would love to hear like your kind of origin story with it as well. But this was probably 2024, Q1. I was the VP of marketing for Original Grain Watch Company. We had grown a ton the year before. We put up like 80% growth or something, and we were shooting for another 100% that year, so big goals. And the first quarter got off to an inefficient start. We were spending 100% more, but we were only doing like 60% more revenue, which is not a good math equation if you know anything about e-com. That's cutting into the bottom line quite severely. And to my eyes at the time, none of the data looked that outrageous. Like there was nothing in Meta, there was nothing on our site, there was nothing that I was seeing that was like, oh, that's it. That's the reason why this is so much less efficient this year. So I texted my friend McCoy, who is the CMO of Portland Leather Goods, and I was like, hey, dude, can you take a look at this? Like, I'm lost. I don't know what to do here. Please help save my job. And he was like, what's your he asked me, he was like, what's your CPMR? And I was like, CPMs are flat. Like, and he's like, no, that's not what I said. And he explained that this metric, cost per 1,000 account center accounts reached, which thank you for shortening it to CPMR. That's much easier to understand. But we had seen like that had gone up like 40% year over year, even though CPMs were flat. And our frequency had gone up, and Meta was just serving our ads to a lot of the same people that have heard about us, who know us, and we were not a business where like repeat purchases were strong. So like we're just wasting a ton of ad spend serving ads to people who bought from us once who probably aren't ever going to come back. Once we figured that out, and once we kind of retooled our account to help us be more effective at reaching new people, we went on to crush our growth goals for that year. And like from Q1 on, like we're just on a crazy hot streak. So that's kind of my like intro to it. I'm a big believer in like Meta is a megaphone for us to reach new people, and the better we are at it, the better overall performance is going to be. Yeah. But would love to hear how you got into it, how that story resonates with you.
yeah, I mean that's a really good example. I couldn't have introed it much better myself, to be honest. And you've already said a couple of interesting things. You said Phil's the guy that I DM when I've got, not the guy, but Phil's a guy I DM when I've got issues with Meta. And that's where my engagement with CPMR came from. Totally aligned with your example, which was, while we can use CPMR as an indicator to show that something's improving, more often than not, it's an indicator that something isn't right. And especially when you look at it over a longer period of time, like year to date now is a really good example. Now's a good time to be looking at where we are year to date for your CPMR versus last year. So yeah, the fact that you said, I DM Phil when I've got an issue, and we've spoken about CPMR already a couple of times in DMs. That's where most people will be introduced to it, is by looking at the account like you did with that example of the brand, and thinking, hold on, why isn't 2 + 2 equaling 4 anymore?
Yeah.
2 + 2 is equaling 2.5.
Yeah.
And it was an account that I worked on maybe 2023, maybe 2024. And I spoke about this on the Andrew Faris podcast, which was, I think there's certain accounts that struggle with CPMR more than others, just like how there's certain accounts that struggle with high CPMs or high cost per clicks or whatever. There's certain building blocks that make up an account that can put them in this trap. And for this account that I was working on, it wasn't a retention business, very low repeat purchase rate. They hadn't been doing much on new product development. They were mostly advertising in the UK. It was like a low value product, like £30, $35, $40 AOV. And it was all, and they'd been in market for like 5-6 years. So the first year, smashing it, great. The second year, great. And they just kept plowing into the
year 5. They'd probably reached everyone in the country, right?
Exactly. And then now they're like, hold on a minute, why is it getting harder? And that really sums up like that feeling of, why isn't it as easy as it used to be anymore? And the metric that all the signs kept coming back to for this brand and other brands that I've worked on and spoken to is CPMR. And that it could be something else. It could be cost per click, it could be conversion rate, it could be click-through rate, it could be whatever. It just keeps coming back to CPMR in most accounts, and it's not something that we want to try and incorrectly impact. It's something that we want to use as a signpost for the right or wrong reasons.
For sure. Yeah, I love the way you look at it, because like it's similar to how I look at conversion rate, as like, hey, I expect this to degrade over time. Like year 1 for a brand should be like relatively easy. We're going to reach our super fans, the customers that are most, suited and ready and in market to buy from us. Year 5, year 10, after you've spent 100 million on ads, I expect like CAC to go up, conversion rate to go down, cost per click to go up. So when I talk about like CRO work, for example, my goal actually isn't really to increase conversion rate. It's like to slow the decline. Like, let's do what we can to kind of like mitigate this natural, decreasing efficiency that a bunch of brands face. Is that how you're looking at CPMR? Like, hey, yeah, ideally we'd love to go back to 2018 CPMs, but like there's nothing we can do to do that. There's nothing that you can do to replicate, a brand's first or second year in business or the first million or two that they've spent on ads. So is this just about like, hey, like let's stop the bleeding. Let's do what we can to run as efficiently as possible, kind of like given the restraints of Meta and the general market.
Yeah, it's all about let's presume that CPMs are going to go up every year. So if we presume that there's going to be a 10% increase every year, we can factor that in to forecasting. But where people get tripped up is when frequency increases at the same or a faster rate. And then that's when your CPMR can go from like $50 to $300 in the space of a year.
Yeah.
And most brands, and if you are increasing spend at the same rate, that's okay. Most brands aren't. I think it's not okay if you are increasing spend at the same rate, because like you said, your spend is up 100% and sales are only up 60%. And I think the big shame for brands, and the reason why I feel quite bad for brands and accounts that suffer from this, is most people are trying to do a really good job. They're trying to increase AOV. They're reading all the books. They're following all the best practices, increasing AOV, increasing conversion rate, increasing retention, new product development, tapping into new markets, physically territories, and tapping into new markets as far as personas and whatnot. And all of that hard work is just being wiped out by the cost to advertise.
Yeah.
With finger quotes in the air for anyone listening, that's just wiping out all that hard work. And actually some brands can sort of, tread water and not really go anywhere.
Yeah. And like, that's how I've approached marketing in the last couple of years, like just with the assumption of like, hey, Meta's going to get worse. Meta's going to get their money. I need to work on everything I can outside the ad account to like overcome that. Let's get better at testing messaging. Let's run better creative. Let's run better offers. And that worked for a time. But again, like that only works so much as the rest of your funnel can get more effective quicker then Meta CPMR is increasing, which is fine if it's only going to increase by 5 or 10% a year. But in that example for us, I think it increased like 150% that year. And it's like, oh, so it doesn't really matter that, conversion rate's up and we're running more relevant, creative to who our target market is, because there's no way we can 6x, how good our creative is overnight. But that's what happened to our meta costs.
Yeah. It's funny as well, because maybe like 2.5 years ago, as we all go through these sort of cycles of how much you love the game, and,
Yeah.
and
Or
I was
hate the game for some
yeah,
of us.
I suppose it was love on a scale, up or
Yeah.
down. And I was going through this phase of, and obviously agency game there's all these different elements, like multiple brands and whatnot. And I was like, I'm just getting burnt out by this performance marketing, which is because at that point, I think performance marketing had really changed, like pre-iOS. And this is a bit of a tangent. Pre-iOS 14, we were media buyers, spend and ROAS. And then it
Dude, I think back to that time and how little I was doing outside the ad account. Like the worst landing page experience, not testing any new content or offers. Like we were just like putting money into Meta and getting $5 out for everyone we put in. And we were like, great, life's good. Let's leave it at that.
We were so crap.
Yeah, we're so bad. So bad at marketing.
I mean, it's a bit like it's like is it the diamond? It's like the pressure makes diamonds, doesn't it? There's an analogy there. But and post iOS 14, we had to become like business mentors, almost, because of this whole sort of blended analogy. And I know it wasn't just iOS 14 and people were doing that beforehand and whatnot, but it really became more common practice afterwards. And I was getting really burnt out by performance marketing. And I was a graphic designer in university, so I came from this idea of like communication, and communication first and whatnot. And now I was, performance marketing, and it was spend and profit. And I was getting a bit burnt out, and I was thinking I would just love to be running brand awareness ad accounts.
Yeah.
Not awareness as far as objective, but awareness as far as what are we trying to do?
Yeah. Like not so focused on today's CAC, today's ROAS.
Yeah. Yes. Like money in, money out. And I know that's what pays the bills, but and recently I've started to think we've kind of arrived there because of CPMr.
Explain that.
So we're now, and you made a good point at the start, which was Meta is a megaphone.
Yeah.
Meta is, especially if you think about the fact that we're paying for impressions, we're putting JPEGs and MP4s in front of people on their phones, and that's it. And everything that happens after that is a desire.
Yeah.
Is what we hope to happen, but we're paying. We're buying space. We're like madmen for newspapers and billboards.
Yeah.
And maybe that's a little bit romantic, and this is a proper tangent, but I kind of feel like
I love it
because we're thinking about CPMR now and the cost to advertise and how much is this full bleed advert going to cost in a newspaper, and how much is it going to cost to reach this many million people on stories and reels and whatnot, that we're going back to that idea of proper media buying.
Yeah.
I've got $2 million to spend. How many relevant people can I reach? And if you optimize and if you track that and that cost improves, then you'll have a better time and things will get easier. But
I love that tangent because it did start to make me think differently about how we advertise both on and off of Meta. Like on Meta, we ended up running a campaign that was probably like 5 to 10% of daily ad spend. That was a conversion campaign, but for me, like I did not care if it brought conversions in. I wanted to spend money on content that I knew was going to make a better impression than like our normal direct response static ad. So we ended up running like a bunch of video creative, which didn't perform well for us at that brand. But like we were proud of it. Like it was something like we wanted our future customers to see. We wanted them to know about who we are, what we stood for. Because like we had a longer consideration cycle as well. And I'm like, all right, if I know people are hearing about us 6 and 12 months before they ever make their first purchase, I don't need to only be running the ads that are going to get them to buy today. I don't need to be running like mid and bottom of the funnel style creative that's like, get yours now. I need to be making a lasting impression, and hopefully like a more valuable impression that people will remember in 2 months. And then they'll start to see our other stuff and convert on it. It's also made me look at deals off of Meta that I usually like wouldn't have considered, like going hard on YouTube, going hard on influencers, because now that like Meta has gotten, at times less efficient, it's like, well, why don't we put those less efficient dollars into something that at least is going to check the box of something else? Is it going to build brand? Is it going to, create a really cool moment that then we can create content of and amplify? Is it going to associate ourselves with another brand or influencer that our customers look up to? I think it's like sneaky a blessing and a curse to have like inefficient marketing dollars available to spend, because you can spend it in more creative ways than, another direct response Meta ad.
Yeah. I think intent is really important. And we have, and this sounds like we're being very sort of elite, and we definitely do run ad accounts where there's a huge volume of creative. On the other end of the scale, we run ad accounts where, when we've got an idea for a video, we're literally launching one video as the ad. We're not doing iterations. We're not testing the hook. This is the video that we want people to see.
Mm-hmm.
So we're gonna pay for it. And it's the same idea of a billboard. What's the billboard that you want to put in front of people? It's like the Super Bowl. They don't. I presume they don't A/B test Super Bowl content.
Yeah, you're not split testing hooks there. Yeah.
No, it's like, what's the video? What's the intent? Massive amounts of intent. What are you going to put your name to as a piece of marketing content? And we're going to put that in front of people.
I think we're becoming like proper marketers, which is nice. Because last decade, I can tell you, I was not at all.
I mean, I was just throwing so much shit at the wall.
Yeah.
And it was all working.
Yeah. Well, great tangent. Let's bring it back to CPMr for a minute, because that's going to be the title of the episode. That's what people are clicking on for. When you see an account that's cost to reach people has risen way faster than it should have, is your first instinct to reach for the creative lever or the account structure lever?
Account structure.
Yeah.
Because that's the foundation to improve, because we're always going to be we've always been making creative. We're going to continue to make creative, and we're going to continue into the future. So what's the mark in the sand, the line in the sand that we need to put right now on the account structure? Because I don't want to be changing the account structure every week.
Yeah.
I want to change it now and run it for the rest of the year up to Q4 and lock it in and scale into it. So start off with the account structure, because most accounts are trying to be diverse with creative. Even if they can improve, most accounts will say, yeah, we're trying to. So you should believe that, okay, they're trying to reach new audiences with that creative and deliver to different placements and whatnot, but it is account structure. Yeah.
What are the most common mistakes you see in structure that are driving up our cost to reach people?
Poor exclusions, or exclusions that haven't changed for a long time. And what I mean by that is, well, we just used to exclude purchases and email lists 2 years ago. It's like, yeah, but your CPMr was $50 now. It's now $150. It's gone up by 3x. You've got to change what you're allowing Meta to do. So poor or no exclusions, and then account activity in relation to budget. And what I mean by that is having too many campaigns and ad sets for your budget. If you're spending 6 figures a day, you can have I'm not the right person to say you've got too many ad sets, because you're probably not running too many ad sets. The issue is when people are spending 5K and less, and they've got too many campaigns and ad sets. In theory, you could probably spend 10K per day on one campaign with a few ad sets inside. For most, especially if you're only selling one product.
Yeah.
that's probably okay. And similar to exclusions is when the data is changing and they don't change the account setup. So this is the way this is the account setup that we've always had. Yeah, but your frequency's been going up month after month.
Yeah.
So you've got to change what you're doing.
Yeah. That's something that's like been such a pain point for me, is like in the last few years, like I've done basically the same thing on Meta across 3 brands, and had really good success with it. And then like all of a sudden, month by month, it wasn't working as good as it used to. How much, and like I'm always a guy that like I never want to be reactionary. I don't want to overcorrect. I never want to be the guy that's like panic pulling levers and being like, oh, we need to change our account structure every month if it doesn't work. Where do you draw the line, and like when is it time to make like big account structure changes?
When your year-over-year growth is being impacted.
Yeah.
So month over month, I would usually pin that to something else.
Sure.
Creative, what's happened from a stock point of view, what's happening on the platform. But when we're looking at year over year, so year to date versus the same period last year, or the month versus the previous year, how much are we spending versus how many people are we reaching? And it's when it's hard to say from a percentage point of view what is the data point, but yeah, if your CPMR is up more than 20% year over year, that's something needs to be done at that point. Yeah.
I'm glad that you called out how many people were reaching there. That was a metric that we started to track once I discovered this whole thing. And like it really brought some, like, honestly, it was just like a good stress reliever when performance was bad for a week. Because I'm big, all right, performance was bad this week. Contribution margin sucked, CAC was high, return on ad spend was low, but we still reached 8 million people. And we reached those people with content we're proud of, that we know eventually are good at selling product. And for me, like that brought a lot of just kind of like longer term thinking into our advertising process. Just to have a number to look at that usually wasn't on our spreadsheets, but it's like, hey, no, we still reached a bunch of new people, and we know like long term that's very good for us. I'm so bullish on like impressions and reach as like a good thing for the business. And that's coming from like a direct response advertiser who's always had to answer to a boss on Monday about what our CAC was last week. But I think it's like a really good thing for people to look at and understand how the different levers you're pulling are going to impact your reach and impressions today. Because that's, I believe, is the truest leading indicator of performance in the days and weeks to come.
Yeah, I think when people start to think about CPMR, and maybe anyone who's questioning it, one issue might be that we're so used to thinking about 7 days, last week versus previous week, and thinking about it in these sort of 7-day cycles. Whereas I think it's easy, if you're just about to get into CPMR, it's easier to think about it from a yearly point of view. At the start of the year, thinking about what you're going to do in Q4.
Yeah.
So not what you're trying to grow this year, 12-month period. You've just finished Q4. What do you want to do next Q4? And obviously a big part of that is Black Friday. So if you want to double your performance in Q4, what are the different bits that you're going to need to drive that? You're going to need more emails in your email list.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to need more returning customers at that point than you've got right now. So therefore you need to acquire more new customers, and all of those things cost more money.
Yeah.
And if it costs exactly the same as what you've got this year, then you need to double spend if you're trying to double that growth. But what happens if cost per new email subscriber goes up, or your cost per new customer goes up? And then you could go to, okay, so what about social media followers? And you've got all these different buckets where people live: your email list, your existing customers, your social media followers, people on the website that you can retarget to, your SMS list. All of these buckets you've got to try and fill throughout the year, and reach is one of those buckets as well.
Yeah, 100%.
And so that's really where people can get caught out, is when you come to Q4 that year, the coming year, and you think, hold on, we've doubled spend. Why isn't everything else going up 2x? And it's because when you start to look at it and you do some diagnosis, if that's the right word, you can see that, okay, hold on, the cost went up.
Yeah. I've been at a supplement brand the last like 10 months. But before that, I spent 9 years across 2 different, but very giftable brands. And Q4 at both of them made up more than 50% of our revenue for the year, and even a bigger slice of the pie for profit. And like super early on in my career, the big unlock for us was like, oh, if we spend more money the week before Black Friday will be bigger. And then we were like, what if we spend more money the whole month of November? And that became October, and then that became the summer. And then we eventually started to think about it like, all right, it's January. It's January 4th. We're all back from Christmas break. We have a goal to do a $22 million Q4. What do we have to do between now and September to make sure we hit that? And that like really shifted our thinking, and we ended up spending more, much less efficiently throughout the year, as long as our reach and cost per lead, as long as some of those like leading indicators were good, we kept our foot on the gas, and then Q4 ended up bigger and more profitable than we had planned on.
Yeah, I think as soon as you start to think about those efficiency savings throughout the year and those buckets that you're trying to fill, and you can positively improve those metrics.
Yeah.
So rather than just everything getting more expensive every year, cost per email subscriber going up, cost per SMS subscriber going up, cost per reach going up. I think as soon as you start to track those things, and then you start to try and impact them, it's such a big motivator. In like we've had it the last couple of weeks for a brand. It's like April and May, and we can see we're spending 2x the same versus the same week last year, and our cost per reach and all these other metrics is going down.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Versus the previous period, and we're like, this is a gold rush. Because spend more. The audiences are cheaper. The performance right now, the CAC right now is good.
Mm-hmm.
So let's just keep digging, shuffling sand into the buckets or whatever.
Love it. Yeah, filling the funnel is like a very real thing that I think like we got tricked into not believing, because direct response was so cheap and so easy for 8 years or so. But now that it's getting a little bit harder, like I think it's necessary to think longer term. One quick tip for everyone: I've run a post-purchase survey at a couple of brands now, where I ask new customers, when was the first time you heard about us? And you'd be shocked at how long some of the answers are. I've yet to see a brand whose number one answer was shorter than a month ago. So like 7-day click is a ridiculous way to judge the effectiveness of our ads, because the data is screaming at us that like, hey, no, people are thinking about this for months and months at a time. People might be thinking about it for a month before they ever even click on an ad. So I love this like more zoomed out view of how we're going to judge the effectiveness of our advertising.
Yeah, it really is a balance between the tools that we have and not forgetting those tools of MMM and Northbeam and Triple Whale or whatever platform you're using, and looking at very short window 1-day click ROAS, and that could be like a very low target of 0.5 on a 1-day click, and we know that ladders up to whatever over a longer period of time. So still using those great performance marketing tools that we've got, but then also looking at something like CPMr, net new visitor percentage, cost per new visitor to the website, and trying to balance both of these things to justify or diagnose what is performance really good right now and we can continue to keep scaling, or do we need to try and fix something because either people aren't converting today, or it's actually people are converting today but filling the funnel is getting more expensive.
Couldn't have said it better. I think that's a great spot to wrap it up. Phil, where can people find you if they want to work with you? Where can they absorb some of your knowledge? Go ahead and give yourself a very well-deserved plug here.
Cheers, Nate. So Twitter, Phil Kiel or X, and then I would say DM me, but don't DM me. You'll get lost if you just book a call. My Calendly. You might have to wait a couple of weeks to find a slot in the calendar because work is good. But yeah, there.
Awesome, and thanks so much for coming on. Thanks so much for the advice you've given me over the last few months. It's been great to get to know you. I love the way you think about ads in general. So everyone go follow Phil, hit him up if you need some help. He's been a great resource to me. Thanks so much for coming on, Phil, and thanks so much for listening to Tactical and Practical.
Cheers,